Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is a topic that we need to talk about because it's everywhere on social media. I've been avoiding it as much as possible, but here we are. We need to get into it. I avoid politics really pretty much at all costs, but there is an entanglement here of politics and relationships. Today we are talking about 3 positive things about the 4B movement. I know this might be an interesting take, because this 4B movement is supposed to be a bunch of women swearing off men and making your lives harder, especially your dating lives. But today, I'm going to tell you why it is not necessarily a bad thing. And you guys got to remember that this is a minority of women that are partaking in this. So there's a reason why there's going to be positives coming from it. For any of you men that have been living under a rock and you have not heard about this movement, it is essentially women that are swearing off men for 4 years, right? They're not dating and they're not even having any kind of casual, intimate relationships with men. But many of you guys might not realize that this movement was actually occurring earlier in the year. Like, people were talking about it. But now it's trending in the US again since Trump won the election. There are different degrees of this. So if a woman is already married or they're in a relationship that they don't necessarily want to end simply because there's a new president-elect, which I think would be crazy if you're going to personally affect your life that much over something that might happen. Like, I think that's a little cuckoo. But with that being said, some women are not going that crazy and they're calming it down a little bit. And what they're doing instead is they are kind of protesting more of the pro-life politics of Trump in their own way. So they're using more protection, or they're even going as far as going in and getting their tubes tied or convincing their man to get chopped. Before we get started on these 3 positive takes on this movement, I want to remind you guys to hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet to catch my videos every Friday. Going into number 1, the first positive thing about this movement is that the true nature of this movement within the US is being revealed. And what I mean by that is the women that are following this modified version of the movement, where they are staying in their relationship, but they are taking more precautions from getting pregnant because, they really don't want a baby. What were you doing before this? Because the only thing that's coming off the table of options to not have a baby is termination. So for these women to be even able to take any additional action, that is telling, because it says that for these women, their behavior changed based on this last resort backup plan going away. Which, when you listen to pro-choicers, and I'm not even going to get into what I personally believe, but I'm just saying, playing devil's advocate, for most pro-choicers, they absolutely deny this. They deny that getting rid of termination is not because they're using it as a birth control. It's because they will emphasize these terrible but rare cases where somebody has been raped and there's a resultant pregnancy from that. And I can't imagine the mental aspect with that. So of course, people are a little bit more understanding in those cases why a woman wouldn't really be able to mentally be able to handle a pregnancy. And then the other cases that they usually emphasize are cases where women will lose their lives potentially. Like, there's a high medical risk where it's going to be a choice between her life or the potential baby's life. So with that being said, pro-choicers usually emphasize those cases. But that's not what's happening here in this movement. What's happening in this movement is that women are making changes to their birth control methods. The fact that they're doing this, it tells you that you were using it as a form of birth control, which I think that most people would agree it should not be intentionally used as that. Moving on to the second reason why this movement is a good thing for you guys. Number 2. The women participating are about to get quite a lesson. What I mean by that is that they're going to be learning what abstinence is. And they will also learn that you want to be in a relationship with somebody that you really know before being super intimate with them, because you never know what might be the result of that. Because when you're doing the act of procreation, there is a chance that you will procreate a child. And I think something that a lot of you guys know, let's face it, a lot of women joining this movement are not used to having healthy, long-term, loving relationships with men. They are used to casual and short-term, just kind of getting their needs met, which is why they often view procreating a child as a consequence rather than a blessing. Moving on to the third reason why this movement is a good thing is that women that don't like men are taking themselves out of the dating pool. They are revealing themselves. And for the women that are left behind in the dating pool, I think that even this is having a positive effect on relationships, because it's getting talked about, which means that birth control and safe intimacy is getting talked about more, which I think is very much a positive all the time across the board with dating and relationships. I think it's very important to be open. I think it's very important to talk about your own values and beliefs, especially before doing the deed. Like, you want that partner to know your own beliefs and values, and then you want to know his or her own values and beliefs. Because then you can ensure that you're on the same page, or find out that you're not on the same page. And then at least you're making an educated decision. And in this way, I actually think that this gives men more of a voice. Because I think before, in the past, many women may not openly talk about their feelings on the topic before getting intimate, because, you know, they just hold the belief that it's their bodies and only they will get a final say on it, which, you know, I kind of believe is the case. I think that should be the case. But I think that men need to know that they have some amount of ownership in it as well. And I don't think men necessarily, they don't want to be able to have that say over women. Like, most all men that I've spoken to, they want women to have the choice, because it's their bodies that end up growing a child. But what I mean by he has more of a voice, he has more of a say, is that he might prefer to do the deed with a woman that shares his same beliefs on this topic, just in case a whoopsie happened, which it just really makes sense. Those are the positives. But will this movement take off? My opinion is that no, it's not going to take off. I think that right now it's probably at its peak. It might even already be on the decline. I think that for a lot of women, you know, they're just trying to grasp control. And it's not, again, it's not even the majority of women, because we know the stats on that. We know that more than half of all women in the US did vote for Donald Trump. So I think that it is a minority that have a large voice. You know, they're just being loud and they're just upset right now, and they're trying to grasp some amount of control, which I think is honestly just human nature. It will fizzle out over time. But until then, guys, we get to appreciate some of the pluses. See the positivity. Before we wrap up this video, I do want to show you one aspect that I didn't even think about with this movement. For a lot of you guys that have seen videos, it's been women that are shaving their hair off. And the whole point of that is to be less attractive for men, right? Because men traditionally like really long hair. They like hair on women in general. And there's this trend now where women that are joining the movement shave all of it off, and they're like, there, you know, I'm done with men. Well, I'm gonna let you guys watch this video. This is an aspect that I didn't even really think about, but let's talk about it after.
I'm not going to keep quiet anymore, because I just saw the most heartbreaking video. To all the women who decided to shave their head in support of this 4B movement, stop it. And not stop it because you can't do what you want or have freedom to do what you want, but you're being offensive. You're selfish. I just saw a woman post a video of her little girl, couldn't have been more than 5 years old, with cancer, with a bald head, saying that she's held her daughter numerous nights because her daughter was crying because when she lost her hair, she didn't feel beautiful anymore. So basically what you're saying is you're trying to make yourself unattractive by shaving your head because you don't like the president that was elected. Do you hear yourselves and see yourselves? Like, enough is enough. Grow up. Your entitlement is disgusting. There's actually women around the world that are oppressed. You live in the freest country and no matter what you think, you haven't lost one right. No one's bothered to answer my question or list the rights that you have lost because you haven't. You're living in a delusional world. It's called get some mental help. Go to a therapist. You've created an imaginary world that you believe is real. Roe v. Wade was overturned a long time ago. You guys don't want the government, the federal government, in your business. Do you understand what Roe v. Wade even meant when it was overturned? Because I think there's like a misconnect here. It means, and I'm going to say it for the 50th time, it means it was the federal government has been taken out of the equation to have any control over your bodies. It was given to the states so you could choose what state you want to live in. Do you understand that? I honestly don't think you do. There's less government involved in making decisions about your body. You don't get that. I do think it's a level of education. I really don't think you guys get it.
The lady's obviously passionate, and I think for the right reasons. It makes sense. And I love her points at the end, right? I don't think I have much more to add to that. If you guys have an opinion on this, let me know in the comments. And as always, have a great week. I will see you next Friday.